The movie begins with the introduction of the main character, Pi. A writer comes to meet Pi, sent by Pi's uncle, who tells him that Pi has an amazing story worth hearing. This story is about Pi's life. The writer asks Pi about his name and why he was named Pi. Pi explains, every human in this world has different preferences. My uncle loved swimming pools, and he named me Pi when I was born. The name was inspired by a swimming pool. He adds, actually my name was Pi Patel, but I was teased at school because of it. One day, I solved a difficult question in class, and my teacher appreciated me and admired me in front of everyone. Since then, I started calling myself Pi. Pi continues, many farmers lived in the place where we stayed. My mother was a religious lady, and I believed in God because of her. I wasn't told about my religion in childhood, so I began to explore and adopt different religions. I followed multiple religions and learned how to love God and the importance of believing in human life. My father, however, practiced a different religion. One day, he told me, if you continue following different religions, it means you don't truly follow any religion. Hearing this, my mother said, he is young. It doesn't matter which God he loves. Pi then shares, my father owned a zoo where he kept many animals. I grew up around those animals and learned that some animals can become good friends with humans. However, this doesn't apply to all animals. One day, as a child, I tried to feed a tiger, thinking it wouldn't harm me. My father saw me and scolded me, saying, what foolishness were you about to do? It could harm you. My father wanted me to understand the danger, so he tied a goat in front of the tiger to show me how wild animals behave. I saw the tiger brutally kill and eat the goat. From that moment, I realized that wild animals cannot become friends with humans. Years pass, and Pi is now a young man. He develops a liking for a girl who becomes his friend. One day, he brings her to see the zoo. Unfortunately, the land where they lived wasn't theirs, and they had to leave the place soon. While having dinner, Pi's father tells the family, we will move to another place soon and sell the animals. Pi is disheartened. He doesn't want to leave his friend, but feels unable to express this to his family. Eventually, they leave the city along with the animals on a ship. While on board, Pi's father has an argument with the chef about vegetarian and non-vegetarian food. Another passenger offers his meal to Pi's father. Later that night, Pi's father gives medicine to the animals, explaining, sea travel is painful for the animals. They can't bear it, get sick, and start vomiting. It's better to make them faint. Pi continues narrating to the writer. We were crossing a dangerous part of the sea that night. Everyone was asleep, but I woke up because of a noise. I went outside and saw a storm. At first, I enjoyed it, but soon I noticed water entering the ship. I realized my family was still inside the ship, so I rushed to find them, but there was water everywhere. I ran upstairs, where I saw others trying to lower lifeboats. I begged them to help save my family, but they were focused on escaping. One of them asked me to get on a lifeboat, but I didn't want to leave without my family. Suddenly, my foot slipped, and I fell into the lifeboat. The storm pushed it far away from the ship. I jumped into the water, trying to get back to the ship, but I saw it sinking into the ocean. I had no choice but to return to the lifeboat. On the lifeboat, I saw someone else trying to climb aboard. When I approached to help, I realized it was the tiger from our zoo that had also managed to escape onto the lifeboat. As morning broke, the storm raged on, showing no signs of calming. Water had begun to pool inside the boat, so I started bailing it out. Among the chaos, I noticed a zebra lying injured, its leg wounded. Before long, an aardwolf found its way onto the boat. Shortly after, a chimpanzee appeared, and I couldn't leave it behind. With some effort, I managed to help it onto the boat as well. However, things quickly took a grim turn. Driven by hunger, the aardwolf attacked the injured zebra. I tried desperately to intervene, but it was no use. The aardwolf overpowered and killed it. The next day, hunger drove the aardwolf to attack the chimpanzee. Once again, I tried to protect it, but I failed. Helplessly, I watched as the aardwolf devoured the poor creature. Just when I feared the aardwolf might turn its attention to me, the tiger emerged from the shadows of the boat. In a swift and brutal motion, it attacked and killed the aardwolf. Panic surged through me. With the tiger now in full view, I knew it was only a matter of time before its hunger turned to me. Without thinking, I leaped into the sea to distance myself from the boat. I clung to the lifeboat, my thoughts racing. Stranded in the middle of the ocean, separated from my family, and sharing a boat with a wild tiger, I had no idea how I would survive. I searched the boat and found some supplies, water cans, and a small stash of food. While it was a relief to have something, I knew it wasn't nearly enough for the days or weeks ahead. Among the supplies, I discovered a survival manual. It was like a gift of hope in my darkest moment. Following its advice, I tried to stay active and focused. I kept myself occupied, singing, and remembering happier times. At night, As I gazed at the endless sky, I thought of my family. The stars reminded me of my mother's comforting words: have courage and keep hope alive. As long as you hold on to these, nothing can truly defeat you. Determined to survive, I started writing messages on scraps of paper, placing them in water bottles and tossing them into the sea, hoping someone would find them. I wrote, "Please help me. I am stranded at sea." Days passed, and I realized I needed to feed the tiger if I wanted to keep it from attacking me. The food I had wouldn't last long, so I tried fishing. It wasn't easy, but eventually, I managed to catch enough to feed the tiger. One day, desperate for food, the tiger leapt into the water to hunt for fish. It struggled to find anything and turned its predatory gaze toward me. Fear gripped me as it tried to climb onto the lifeboat. At that moment, I had to decide, fight it or help it. Something stopped me from harming the tiger, and instead, I helped it back onto the boat. Over time, we found an uneasy balance, learning to coexist in the vast, unforgiving ocean. One fortunate day, I caught a large fish. Though it went against everything I believed in as a vegetarian, survival demanded I eat it. I shared some with the tiger, knowing it was the only way to keep it calm. Life at sea was relentless. Each day blended into the next, but then something extraordinary happened. I found myself surrounded by a pod of whales. Their massive, shimmering forms glided through the water, a breathtaking sight. Out of nowhere, a whale breached near my boat, sending a massive wave crashing down. My boat rocked violently, and much of my food supplies spilled into the sea. Starving and desperate, I clung to hope. Despite my struggles, I couldn't shake the feeling that somehow I might survive this ordeal. With no choice but to coexist with the tiger, Pi decided to train it. Days turned into weeks, and their condition deteriorated further. One night, lost in memories of his family, Pi felt a renewed sense of hope. But his circumstances grew grimmer. His pencil, the last tool for recording his thoughts, had run out, leaving him unable to write. Then, a powerful storm struck, tearing apart the rescue boat. The lifeboat itself was barely holding together, its hull filling with water. Despite everything, Pi whispered to the tiger, "Look, even God wants to help us." By the next morning, the storm had subsided, but both Pi and the tiger were on the brink of death. The tiger, now too weak to stand, lay motionless. Overwhelmed with emotion, Pi approached the tiger, gently resting its head in his lap. He stroked its fur, tears streaming down his face. In that moment, they seemed to share a quiet understanding. This might be the end. But salvation came in the form of a lush, green island. The sight brought relief. They found fresh water, fruit, and an abundance of food. The island was teeming with mongooses, which the tiger hunted eagerly, while Pi savored the abundance around him. However, as night fell, Pi sensed something unsettling about the island. The mongooses moved erratically, climbing trees, as if fleeing from an invisible threat. Even the tiger returned to the boat, wary of the surroundings. Pi made a horrifying discovery. The water on the island turned acidic at night, killing the fish. Exploring further, Pi found a strange fruit. When he opened it, he was shocked to find a human tooth inside. It dawned on him the island was carnivorous, consuming both animals and humans. By day, it seemed idyllic, but by night, it became a death trap. Realizing he couldn't stay, Pi prepared to leave. He stocked the boat with as much food and water as possible, even bringing mongooses for the tiger. Blowing his whistle, he called the tiger, who instinctively ran to him. Though an animal, the tiger seemed to understand that remaining on the island meant certain death. After days of travel, Pi and the tiger reached another island. Exhausted, Pi collapsed as the tiger stepped ashore. In his heart, Pi hoped the tiger would look back, acknowledging their bond after all they had endured together. But the tiger didn't stop or turn around. It simply disappeared into the wilderness. Heartbroken, Pi wept like a child. He had found land, but the tiger's departure left an unbearable void. The most painful moments, he later said, are when you can't even say goodbye. Eventually, Pi was discovered and rescued. Officials from an insurance company visited him, seeking an explanation for the shipwreck. Pi told them everything: the tiger, the island, and his survival. But they didn't believe him. Frustrated, they demanded a story they could accept. So, Pi offered an alternate tale, one without animals. In this version, he explained that his companions were not creatures, but his family members, each meeting a tragic end. The writer listening to Pi's story asked, "Did they believe you?" Pi replied, "I still have their report." He handed the writer a document detailing the account of a boy who survived 227 days in the Pacific Ocean with a tiger. Surprised, the writer asked, "Which story do you prefer? The one with the tiger or the one with your families?" Pi smiled softly. "The story with the tiger," he said. At that moment, Pi's wife and children entered the room. The writer asked if he could write Pi's story, to which Pi replied, "Perhaps my uncle sent you for this reason. Go ahead." With that, Pi left, his story imprinted forever on the writer's heart. And so, the tale ended, not just of survival, but of faith, resilience, and enduring connection between man and nature. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.